So it's a great honor for me to be making some remarks about the first child of Joseph and Vida, my mother Regine, and the grandmother of many of those who are sitting around this table, and who later became famous, much more famous, famously known as Grandma Gina. But she started off as Regine, the first child, and the first of these men and women of valor in this family. Now, my mother was also the first, actually, to leave what was then a very rich, comfortable, and secure family in Rhodes, and one of the most prominent families in the Rhodes community. She married my father Ralph Habib, who came from a prominent Turkish Jewish family, who had come to Rhodes to get together with his father and mother. He had left for America some years earlier in order to escape from the Turkish army, and for a Jewish boy to enlist in the Turkish army was not a very healthy thing to do. So he had fled to America, and he was doing very well. So he couldn't go back to Turkey. So he met with his mother and father in Rhodes. And of course, the minute this dashing young man from America came to Rhodes, a huge competition ensued. And my mother won out, even though all kinds of rumors were being spread about her by the competitors, like she had terrible teeth, it was going to cost them a fortune, and all kinds of things like that. And so they left for America. They left after a very elegant wedding, lavish wedding, happy wedding, to America, the land of opportunity. What could be better than that? Unfortunately, they landed in America smack into the Great Depression, where maybe not all of those who are the younger people around the room know, but this was the greatest economic disaster in the history of Western society in recent years. And millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of Americans found themselves on the streets in abject poverty. And my father, who had a nice little business going before he left for Rhodes, lost everything. So my mother and father found themselves penniless and working desperately to make some kind of a living. And with this comes the first, and so my mother found herself going from my three older sisters, in order: Ray, Vicky, Dolores, and then as an afterthought, and at a very late age, I came along. And they also went on to lead a life, unfortunately, of constant economic struggle as they moved from New York to New Jersey and finally to Miami, through many ups and downs as small businessmen trying to make a living. My mother worked side by side with my father night and day to help get along, to help make things work. And indeed, she had beyond the links with her parents over the years, she had almost absolutely no contact with any of her sisters and brothers around the world, until for the first time, Aunt Sarah, one of our beloved aunts, came to visit, and for the first time the family got a glimpse of how difficult a life my mother and father were really having. Fortunately, as my sisters grew up, got married, got settled, and were all doing very well, my parents got a new lease on life. They sold the last of their businesses. They retired on Social Security. And the concern, devotion, and constant care of my sisters. I was off to university and then went immediately to Israel. I wasn't in the picture. They gave my mother a whole new life. And they gave my mother then the best years of her life in so many ways. And the other wonderful thing that happened to my mother was the great crop of grandchildren. Many in Miami, others in Boston. But there were two amazing things that happened. My mother was able to develop really an unusual and unique attachment to each of these grandchildren, who came to her as a confidant, as a source of advice, and a source of support, and developed a very unique relationship with her. And in preparing this brief presentation, I sent an email to all the grandchildren asking them for their thoughts and their feelings, and this just comes out from each of them, one after the other, in so many different ways. And the second very unique thing was that her retirement opened up a flood of memories of her school years in the Allianz School, and some of us today who took the tour of the Old City already saw the remains of the Allianz School on Rhodes, and I don't think any of us could have gone or has gone to a better school. They didn't only learn not only excellent Jewish studies. מישהו צריך לעזור? יש לו קקי. Okay. And for those who don't know, he has to go to the bathroom. So that, you see, we also have a special relationship. And he needs coffee. Okay. But they also received one of the best possible educations in world and secular culture, in the wisdom and culture that the secular world had to offer. And she began remembering the things she had learned, the stories she had learned, the songs she had learned, in particular the proverbs that she had learned that came from many cultures and were all particularly meaningful to her. And what she did is she developed for each of her grandchildren their own special message, their own special proverb. It was an amazing thing to see. Each of her grandchildren had their proverb that she'd heard from Grandma. And I just want to mention two of these proverbs that stand out. One is, all things come to those who know how to wait.
Yes!
And the second proverb was, from something bad, always comes something good.
Yes!
Two very simple, but very profound and amazing, and it's not the kind of messages that you hear very often. And these messages reflect what she had learned in her Allianz school. They reflect the kinds of strengths that enabled her to survive the very difficult struggle through which she had to face throughout her life. They typify what she passed on to all of her children and grandchildren. And for us, they typify what made our Grandma Gina so special. Thank you.
I can only see her image in a few pictures I have left. And yet, I miss her so much, wishing, if only for one last hug. Know that is if Menachem, my older and only brother, could be here beside me, everything would have looked different today. My mother, Lucy, was the third child of the Menashe family, born in 1910. When my mother was about 20 years old, she traveled to Cairo, Egypt, to celebrate her friend's wedding. There she met my father, Moise, and they got married. She had two sons, my old brother, Menachem, rest in peace, and myself, born a year later in 1938. My mother passed away very young and unexpectedly by misfortunate circumstances following a blood infection. My father did not marry again, and we were raised by my aunt from my father's side, who took care of us. When my brother and I were 9 and 10 years old, we were smuggled by a boat from Egypt to France at the middle of the night by special agents of the Jewish Council. In France, we stayed in an orphanage with many other children. I remember the orphanage as a castle situated in a forest next to a lake with beautiful landscape. One year later, we all came to Israel, making Aliyah. There we have been separated and sent to different educational institutions and boarding schools. Our relationship with my father resumed in 1956. He was deported to Israel with the rest of the Egyptian Jewry. I was an IDF soldier. A few years later, my father passed away. I won't go to detail about all that I've been through, but when I see this big family, all present here, I thank God above, saying to myself, it was all worth it. My dear wife Edna and all my 6 children are here in Rhodes with me. They all came to see and learn about our family roots, their grandmother and my mother Lucy. And for that, I'm forever grateful. For me, this family reunion in Rhodes is a closure of a life circle. I've always wanted to come here someday, and I'm glad that eventually it has materialized. I will cherish all the sights, memories, and feelings evoked in me during this trip. Memories that will stay with me forever, engraved in my heart. On behalf of all my family, I want to thank those who took the initiative and organized this great event. I will not mention names so as not to miss anybody, but you all deserve our respect and appreciation. Most of you who are present here today, I do not know you personally, even though we are family relatives. I am thrilled to see all of you, all our extended family, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, do I really have such a big family?
You do.
Whether close or not, I truly love you all, and I give you a big hug. Whenever you are visiting Israel, you are most welcome to our home. It will be my pleasure to have you as our guest. I shall end with a blessing. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, הגומל לחייבים טובות שגמלה מכל טוב. And now, if you don't mind, today my son Ito is celebrating her birthday. I wish him good luck, joy, and love. Siman Tov.
She always spoke to us about the house in Rhodes that was big, big, big. The garden was enormous. They had a field of artichokes, just artichokes for miles. The artichokes you could that you never ate. The how do you say the garden field of artichokes and other and a whole group of trees, fruit trees. What do you call it? An orchard. And she kept on talking to us about roads for all the. I don't know if you remember, both of you, but I remember that very, very well. She was so and about each one of the siblings, always. But we also were lucky because in the Congo we had her siblings having lunch with us every day. Uncle Albert. I can't call him Albert because I always called him Uncle Albert. I never called him anything else. Tante Sarah, always at our lunch table every single day. And who else? And then David, until he met Monica, Vanessa's father. Vanessa who is here with us. And so we were all very, very close. And then one more, who was there? David, Albert, and Sarah. Every day for lunch at our house. So I grew up with the three of them, besides my parents, with the three of them. I don't know if you remember. Yes. Do you remember?
Where was that?
In the Congo.
In the Congo.
In the Congo. We were born in the Congo and went to school in the Congo and then to university to America, all of us. And so what I want to say is that she was always so proud. That's what I remember, her pride of belonging to this family, of belonging to the Menashe family, of her parents. She spoke about her father always being a religious man, very observant, very much so, very erudite, yes, as well, of course. And her mother, very accomplished lady and always very well dressed, very chic, every day going to the Mandraki in her, they had a chariot. What did they do? A chariot. She did
A horse carriage.
a horse carriage that she used to parade in the Mandraki up and down in her best clothes. Always, every day. That was the afternoon promenade to do on the Mandraki. So that's why when I saw the three mills, you call them mills, I think, huh? No, the windmills. Today, the three, I had heard so much about those three windmills and the promenade, etc. So it was really very emotional for us today. So, yes, a big mission in life was to go to the United States and visit her oldest sister, Regine. That she had in her mind. We heard this for years. And they had to make a plan. Somehow she's going to get to the United States to meet Regine, Tante Regine, for meet Soleil's Tante Regine. And she did it. She found the Congo. She did it. She did it. And she got to the States and she went to visit the family in Miami, and that was the dream of her life, to do that. After how many years? I don't know, 40 years, I think. They had not seen each other for 40 years. And then Tante Regine came to the Congo when it was Alain's bar mitzvah. Alain was my son, and she came as well to attend the bar mitzvah, and that was an event that of note. to make that big trip and see each other. And when they saw with Tante Esther, Lucille, your mother, with Tante Esther and all the sisters, Tante Claire, everywhere, they were, Tante Sarah, David, Albert, they were all there. You should have seen this reunion. that reunion. And today it's all the children here. It's just unbelievable. Very, very special. That's all I want to say. Very special.
How can you follow that? My sister from South Africa, we're all spread in different parts of the world, and can you hear it better now? Perfect. If I don't know how to talk into a microphone, then I shouldn't be in my business. Well, it's not believable that we are all here together to start with, number one, and to find ourselves in the place, as my sister just said, where our mother and father spoke so much about it. And it's like a fairy tale, it's like what you read in books. And the places that we are seeing, the places that she spoke about, our mother and father, are in front of our eyes today. And that is really like a fairy tale book. We are in a place where our parents were born, and my mother used to mention the locations that we are seeing here today. And that one day she said, you have to go to that place. And here we are together. That is really an experience. My mother was the number 4 sister in the family, and used to Albert, Regine, Lucie, and our mother.
Sorry.
No problem. We will forgive her. And the other surprise tonight was to meet a cousin of ours with his entire family, 3 sisters, 3 brothers, our cousin Yossi Carmon. We never met before. We used to correspond as teenagers when he and Menachem lived in France. And when we saw each other tonight, can you imagine the shock, the surprise? And to see him with all of his family is really what this reunion tonight is about. And again, before closing, just wanted to say what makes this family special is how close we are with each other.
Yeah.
We have tried to stay in touch since ever, and we owe the organization of this reunion to the 3 ladies, my daughter, Andrea, and Joanne. Thank you.